Everyone's phone line here. At the end of the call, we'll unmute it and people can ask questions. Here's the update for 7 o'clock for Tropical Storm Cindy. Basically, let me get my slideshow going here. Cindy's still expected to make a landfall later on tonight or early Thursday morning near the Texas-Louisiana state line as a weak tropical storm. The two main hazards that we're really putting a lot of focus on right now is the heavy rain and the above normal tides. And we're going to talk more specifically about that as we go through the presentation tonight. Tropical storm wind gusts over 40 miles an hour, isolated tornadoes, those are also possible tonight. Better shot probably during the daytime hours on Thursday. The next picture we're looking at is the infrared satellite imagery of Cindy. I drew L where Cindy is currently located. You can see there's a large area of convection or thunderstorm activity on the northwest quadrant in the Gulf of Mexico that extends over Cameron, Calcasieu, probably parts of Beauregard, and into southeast Texas. And then we got a dry spot across portions of the Atchafalaya, south central Louisiana, and then another heavy rain band that extends from central Louisiana across Mississippi, southern Alabama, Florida Panhandle, down the Gulf of Mexico. Here's a radar depiction of what that looks like. Of course, the weather radars don't go all the way out in the Gulf, so you see the breaking point there of where the radar cutoff is off the coast. But basically, you can see southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana have a big rain band across our region here. There's another one, a smaller one in central Louisiana, and there's a very small one in south central Louisiana that's just now developing. We are focusing on that area for potentially that to intensify and increase later on tonight. Since we talked last at 4 o'clock, here's what we've had in the rainfall changes. You can see for Calcasieu and Cameron parishes, we've added 2 to 6 inches of rain on this map here. That's fallen in the last 3 hours since that heavy rain band moved on shore. What we're looking at in terms of rainfall forecast, we're still advertising the 3 to 5 inches. You do notice in the graphic here that the yellow ribbon of the 4 to 6 is kind of really across our Texas area and barely scraping along the Louisiana line. So that's where the focus area is going to be as the storm moves inland later on tonight. You also notice that the trend in general, we got a little bit of a gap there that starts in the Atchafalaya and goes over to, I'd say, the New Orleans area. And that's basically where they're saying less than 2 inches of rain. We're reevaluating that right now to see if this is going to hold true or if we need to bump the rain totals up in that area. Another quick picture here. This is some rain gauge reports, unofficial reports that we've got across the Lake Charles, Sulphur, Westlake area. You can see in general we got 1 to 2 inches of rain in the Sulphur area. Lake Charles has seen between 2 and 3 and a quarter inch of rain. We have been getting lots of reports of street flooding in the Lake Charles area. We mentioned earlier that when we get this kind of rain, that it doesn't take much to cause problems on the streets because the water can't drain off quickly due to the high water levels in the Calcasieu and in the lake itself here, and that's been a problem for us here locally. Here's what the wind gusts look like kind of for the southern end of the area. The winds have been increasing. We do have some wind gusts now in the upper 30s along the coast for both Sabine Pass and the Cameron area, 35 down there near Pecan Island. So we are seeing these numbers increase, and we're expecting that to continue as we go through the evening hours and extend further inland as well. Here's the latest forecast point at 7 p.m. Cindy's located at 28.3 north, 93.3 west, still holding at 50 miles an hour. The orange blob on there, that's the extent of the tropical storm wind field. So you can see that it does extend to the northwest and east and north and whatnot, but it's barely just now coming on shore. So we're just now starting to see the tropical storm wind field come on shore in southeast Texas and southwest, south central Louisiana. That will be continuing through the overnight hours. The forecast point for 1 a.m. has it just offshore, and by 1 p.m. on Thursday, they have it up by Toledo Bend. We'll have a new update on this for 10 o'clock. Here's the latest on the tide observations and forecasts. You can see that we're heading into a low tide, and so because of that, the red line shows the observation, or the preliminary observation of what's been going on. So we've dropped, for instance, at Sabine Pass from a high of about 3.6 or 7 feet. we're now down to about 2.5 feet. So it's dropped, and we're probably near the minimum right now. We're expecting it to rise again, however, after midnight. The water levels that we're expecting it to crest at after midnight will be between 4 and 5 feet mean low water. And the timing of that will be between midnight and 6 a.m. Now for Cameron, the numbers are a little bit different. You can see that it's fallen there as well. Earlier today, it was actually over 4 feet, about a 4.2 elevation earlier. Now it's more like a 2.5 foot number. But once again, after midnight, between midnight and 6 a.m., we're expecting the levels to go up to about 4.5 to 5.5 feet mean low water. So to kind of put that in perspective in terms of how deep the water is going to be above ground level, I kind of rephrased the paragraph below here. We're mentioning 1 to 2 feet of water above ground level or over land during the high tides time frame between midnight and 6 a.m. around Sabine Pass, Highway 87 between Sabine Pass and Port Arthur, the low areas around Bridge City, Highway 82 west and east of Holly Beach, and downtown Cameron. So those are the focus areas for Jefferson, Orange, and Cameron parishes that we'll be focusing on overnight as we monitor these tides as they start rising again in literally the next few hours. The crest is going to be occurring during a very late night hour, and that's going to make it much more dangerous because people will have a harder time telling how deep that water is out there. In terms of what these values represent, it's probably going to be about a foot lower than what we saw during Tropical Storm Francis in 1998 from a reference point perspective. So further to the east, this is the freshwater canal gauge. Once again, they're going down right now as well as the Amaretta Pass gauge. They're both expected to rise again between midnight and 6 a.m. Both gauges are expected to crest between 4 and 5 feet mean low water. That also will equate to approximately a 1 to 2 feet of water above ground level during that time frame between midnight and 6 a.m. for areas around Pecan Island, the low spots, Intercoastal City, Delcom, Sycamore Point, Burns Point, and Amelia on the east side of Morgan City where it's not protected by the levee system. Also, there is a potential that it could back around and get a little bit more into the Stevensville area, but we'll be focusing on that later on as well. Finally, the tornado threat. We mentioned it earlier. The tornado watch is expiring here at 7. The tornado risk is probably ending for tonight, but tomorrow during the daytime hours, which is typically when you see tornadoes, it will be across our entire forecast area in Louisiana, as well as parts of southeast Texas during the daytime hours on Thursday. So for our summary purposes here, the rainfall numbers, we're not changing anything there. 3 to 5 inches of rain, locally higher amounts of 10 inches possible through Thursday. The 10 inches is only going to happen if we have a rain band sitting over an area for several hours. The rain that we saw earlier today here, or the last few hours I should say, here in Lake Charles down to Cameron, all of that occurred in probably an hour to an hour and a half time frame. And, it didn't sit there for 3 hours. Fortunately, it was moving across the area. So that one we dodged the bullet on, but we'll be monitoring to see what happens for the remainder of the night because we are expecting continued redevelopment of showers and thunderstorms moving in from the Gulf through the remainder of the evening hours here in southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas. The question mark that we have is what's going to happen for lower Acadiana, south central Louisiana. Right now there's a new area developing over there, so it's not big yet, but it's starting to expand. So that's going to be what we're watching for the next several hours. The tides, the storyline there, tides running, I need to change the slide here to say 2 to 3 feet above normal. That equates to 1 to 2 feet above ground level in those locations we mentioned earlier in the previous slide. The tornado risk is going to be really occurring during the daytime hours on Thursday, and the winds, the tropical storm force wind gusts will be moving onshore, moving inland throughout the night before weakening by midday Thursday. So here's what my plan is. I'm going to do another conference call at 10 o'clock tonight. At 10 o'clock, we get a new forecast from the Hurricane Center, so from their perspective, we'll see if anything's changed, if the storm has wobbled to the east or west, and landfall projection will change. We'll also obviously have a better update on the radar perspective of how things are looking in the Lafayette, down to Morgan City area, to see if the rainfall starts building up in that area, and we'll give you a better feel for it at that stage. So let me unmute the phone lines here. like I said, we're going to do another call at 10 o'clock. I'm going to
line.
send out a reminder for that here in a few minutes. But does anyone have any questions for me in the meantime before we dismiss tonight or till 10 o'clock?
Hey, Roger, it's Terry. Hey, Roger.
Yes.
It's Terry in St. Martin.
Yes. Terry in St. Martin. Gotcha.
With the forecast of these rains, and most of them, as it looks, it's riding on top of us. Do you have any indication of what it will do? I mean, sooner or later, it's got to come through the basin, and we're already at high levels. Do you have any indication of what it could do to our river system?
In terms of you're talking about like the Tesh?
Well, the rains that are riding on top of us, they'll be to the north of us, it looks like, and they'll have to come down through the basin. Will we expect any considerable rise in the basin or the river levels in the basin?
Yeah, based on what we've got, the guidance from the River Forecast Center, they're not showing any appreciable rise coming down from the river. It's going to be the main focus for that will be just down on the end, down by Morgan City, where the water's backed up. So for you, it's going to be the Stevensville area, not so much the upper part of St. Martin. It's going to be the lower part of St. Martin Parish.
Thank you, Roger.
Roger, this is Press in Iberia.
Yes, Press.
Your summary slide referred to tropical storm force wind gusts. It didn't mention sustained winds. Do we still have a forecast of sustained tropical storm force winds tonight?
Yeah, right now we still have the tropical storm wind forecast in there. But, honestly, I won't be surprised if we don't get to the sustained level over in your area. I think it's going to be more of a gust factor as opposed to a sustained wind perspective for Iberia Parish.
Okay, thank you.
Roger. Becky in Vermilion.
Yes.
The surge
Yes,
still
Becky.
at 2 feet?
Yeah, the surge is between 2 to 3 feet. 2 to 3 feet storm surge.
Okay.
Is that above the low water mean?
Is that above the low water means?
No, that's above the predicted tides.
All right.
So in terms of an actual elevation, we're probably looking between 4 and 5 feet mean low water. That's the elevation that we're talking about.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
That's on ground level.
Hey, Roger, it's Mark Allen again, Jasper County. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, just checking you once again on the wind speed and gusts. What are we looking at tomorrow from, say, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning through afternoon up here for wind speeds?
I think your strongest winds will be occurring in the first part of the morning, so that for that 5 and 6 in the morning, as the storm is decaying, it'll be moving across northern Jasper County at that time, so you'll still be seeing the wind gusts probably over 40 miles an hour. Maybe not sustained winds, but I think the gusts will be up near 40 miles an hour. And then I think as it keeps decaying and weakening, the trend will be seeing the winds to weaken from 5 in the morning till like 9 o'clock in the morning. The winds will be decreasing.
Okay. I appreciate you. Thank you. Be careful.
Yep, no problem.
Roger, Kip Jadis down in Tucson, Louisiana. Hey, real quick, we did not see a chart in this last briefing concerning the wind speeds or the gusts at tropical storms for periods of time. Are you backing down from those numbers?
25 to 40.
No, I just, nothing's changed on the previous one, so I just decided not to put it in there. So if you have the old ones, that's still what we're carrying in terms of the timing for the wind gusts. But like I was saying for Iberia Parish, I mean, the same things for, your area and Lafayette area. We're looking at probably more like gusts to tropical storm force as opposed to sustained winds. I think the stronger winds will probably be further to the west from where you guys are located. But for gust purposes, I think you're still going to see, you got potential to get 40 miles an hour over there.
Thank you. And you still thinking all the way through noon tomorrow?
That's a good point. It's kind of a lot of times what happens when we get daylight. There's this interaction between the ocean and the land that keeps the winds kind of gusty during the morning hours, and so that's why I was carrying it through noontime. And, at this point, I'm keeping it that way, but, obviously we'll reevaluate it overnight, and that may need to get lowered. But I can take a look at it and see if anything changes between now and the 10 o'clock forecast update.
Thank you, Roger. I'll be on. Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right. Any questions or discussion points at this point? Okay, well. Yes, sir. That's a given. It's going to be wet. There's no place for all that water to go. So, how things are looking over your way, Mayor? I know we've gotten quite a few reports. In Lake Charles, we're getting pretty bad. It's bad.